Hello, and welcome. In today's video, we're going to make a quick comparison between the latest available version of Yuzu, which is Early Access 4176, and the new version of Sudachi 1.0.7. In my last video comparing Sudachi with Ryujinx, a lot of people still had doubts about whether or not to switch from Yuzu. So, unlike last time where I tested a wider range of games, today I'm going to focus on the most essential and demanding titles for emulation. Before we start the tests, let's clarify the criteria. Since we're benchmarking, the FPS limit has been disabled for compatible games. Both emulators are running with the same mods, DLCs, and game versions. The resolution will be the same for both, and no acceleration or slowing down will be done using editing software. All conditions are equal to ensure fair testing. Starting with Bayonetta 3, let's talk about the audio delays during cutscenes. When the game was first released, it was simply unplayable due to the desync issue between audio and video. The longer the real-time cutscenes, the bigger the audio desync, both in Yuzu and Sudachi. However, Yuzu shows a larger desync, as you can see in the background footage. In games like this, the differences aren't that big. Here, we're running with a mod that adjusts the game to 900p, and then I use the configuration to double the resolution, meaning the games are running in 1800p. As for the RAM improvement in Sudachi, it didn't make much difference since it's still using more RAM. The only significant difference was in the low 1%, which means Sudachi had fewer stutters during shader compilation. The second game we tested was Mario Kart 8, and once again, the results were very similar. Yuzu showed higher FPS for a moment, but soon the FPS stabilized, and the average became almost identical. The highlight, once again, was the better low 1% in Sudachi, which seems to have fixed the problem Yuzu had with shaders, making the shader compilation process much smoother, with fewer stutters. In the case of Pokémon Scarlet and its questionable optimization, we already know it's better played on Ryujinx. However, for those who need to use Yuzu forks, the results were identical once again. Not even the low 1% was different. I ran other tests, but the results remained the same, and the RAM saving improvements in Sudachi still haven't shown to be noticeable so far. We tested Metroid Prime Remastered, and once again, the results were identical. To get this result, I used the internal resolution at 2x, with docked mode enabled. It seems that no matter which games I test, the results between Yuzu and Sudachi always remain very similar. We also tested Xenoblade Chronicles 3, using the 60 FPS mod. Even with the FPS unlocked, the game doesn't go over 60 FPS due to its own limitations. During a 5-minute journey in the open field, avoiding battles, the results were, once again, identical. I expected that with the game's vastness, there would be some difference, but I was wrong. Now let's move on to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, with 8 characters on screen. The same results were obtained. Anyone who has played knows the amount of shaders that need to be compiled for each character or effect on screen. Even so, the results remain the same. Lastly, we tested Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Despite being one of the most challenging and poorly optimized games on the Switch, there wasn't a significant difference in the final result. As long as both emulators use the same resources and under the same testing conditions, the results will always be identical. So guys, it doesn't matter how many more games I would test, the results would always be the same. That's why I decided to stop the test here. These types of videos take a lot of effort to make, and it would be tiresome for you to watch something to the end that doesn't show any real difference. And speaking of that, if you had this doubt or like the content so far, leave a like to help with the visibility. And if it's your first time on the channel, consider subscribing to follow more varied content like this. In conclusion, Sudachi 1.0.7 brought improvements to some games released after Yuzu's development ended, like the ones I've just shown. If you want to play these games, it's recommended to use Sudachi because Yuzu might crash early on or not run as expected. On the other hand, if you don't intend to play these specific games and don't want to switch emulators for any reason, there's no need to change. In the early versions of Sudachi, it was said that memory leak issues were fixed, so it might be that Sudachi is more stable in long sessions. There were also improvements in memory management, but from the tests you've seen throughout the video, this didn't make much of a difference. Unfortunately, we won't see more changes from the original Yuzu team, who used to bring improvements almost quarterly and were implementing Project UMA, which promised to drastically reduce RAM usage. That ended along with the development by the original team. This was the short video of the week, just to answer the questions I've been getting daily in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.